So here is Luke, Maarten, and Dan from Mini Vegas. So take it away, guys.
Hello. Hey, thanks for coming and watching our presentation. We're going to show a couple of commercial projects that we've done over the last year using gaming technology. Using the word demos here because they feel very much like making demos. It's always like press for time, like really kind of tight collaboration with a small team. Mini Vegas is a creative production company. We're based in Amsterdam and in Los Angeles. Our main kind of clients come from the art industry and from advertising. Our studio itself has a big animation background. And what we're finding very fascinating these days is to use gaming technology and bring the animations to life and make it interactive. We do like a variety of work ranging from interactive web experience to installations and to TV spots. And what I want to do now is like show you a couple of things. And then Maarten will take over, and then Dan will take over and go a bit more in depth on the technical aspect of the work. This is the first project I want to start with. It's a project we did for Adidas. We actually did the graphics together with Matt and the Fairlight demolition tool. It was quite funny because I met him on last revision and I was just pitching this project for Adidas, and I showed them, can we make something like this in real time? And we only had 5 weeks to put this project together, and he was like, yeah, we can do that. So we got a copy of Demolition and tweaked it severely, and actually managed to pull off this project. The idea of the project was that for the Champions League, there was 2 parties, and obviously being held in Munich. Munich was in, and also was Chelsea. And the idea was to let the audience or the visitors of the city vote for their team. So what we did, we built 10 different installations that would track people. So you could basically go and sit on one side of the couch or sit on the other one, and that would vote for your favorite team. Another thing, you could in like shopping centers, you could walk on one side of the escalator or the other one, and that would also register votes. You could also experience it via a website and actually take over an avatar. We built built apps for Android, and you could log in onto a person's helmet camera and then control them and get them to make a certain decision. And this was all being counted and aggregated by a website, and this website would then show how many votes there were for a particular team. Obviously, Bayern München had a little bit of a head start because they were playing, on home ground. But this all this data gathered would visualize itself daily in a big real-time building projection, where we used that engine for. I'll show you a bit from the first kind of thing that we started. This was our pitch frame. We obviously thought that Barcelona was going to place themselves for then. And this is an actual render of the project. This is how we were putting all the Arduinos together, very late night in the hotel room, making it all work, and we're using all the phones to kind of send the counting votes to the website. And then we were also working very early in the morning, installing everything, hacking it all together. And this is a bit of a case study that shows what it was really done. Oh, it should really have a. Oh, it doesn't have any sound. Huh?
And go all in with Adidas. What started as a simple set of video projections to be featured in the heart of Munich during the Champions League final weekend quickly blossomed into a wildly interactive campaign. Passion is at the core of Adidas's brand message, and where better to harness such passion than a Champions League final? Munich 2012. FC Bayern Munich played host to rival Chelsea FC, 2 teams fighting for the champions crown. We were there to fuel the rivalry. It all started a few weeks prior to the match, as we digitally map the facade of the Hirma shopping centre, which would be the screen for our projections. We then took that information back to our offices and began to create the CG animations that would make up the content for these nightly projections. However, a set of dynamic projections was not enough to bring justice to such a magnificent match, so we brought fans into the campaign. Making use of our data visualization and crowdsourcing capabilities, we offered fans a number of opportunities to show their
I
colours
think
and
there's
go all
another
in for their
project
team.
playing in the background.
Polling stations were placed throughout the city, and voting was as easy as pushing a button on a store window. To where to sit on a bench, what set of stairs to take.
Yeah, so this shows where all these installation was placed. You know, you could pick like choose an ice cream, and the person who would sell it would, you know, pick for the red color, the green color, the blue color. And this is the website that would count the votes in real time. And then there was all sorts of stunts that we organized and pulled off. These are the avatars, which was quite good fun because people from all over the world, they could log in. There was a queuing system. They could log in and they could get their favorite person to pick that team.
Our helmet-wearing avatars to pick the red coffee over the blue for FC Bayern. After a selection was made, a post was generated on the user's Facebook wall.
And of course, like everything we do these days, people want to link it up to Facebook.
As evening draped over Munich, the 3 nights leading up to the final match, we tallied these choices in a spectacular building match projection. Our real-time rendering capabilities allowed us to create unique projections.
Yeah, so this is the real-time generated projections, and what would happen, like every time, you know, the scores, they would sync to the website, and every time we had we did a lot of motion capture that we used to drive the geometry, and every time one person would score or one team would score a team, it would trigger that. It would trigger like a winning or a losing animation. Obviously, Chelsea won, so they were very happy about that. And yeah, that was pretty much that project. There was a lot of people there, and it was pretty good fun. Then I'll move on to another project. It's called Heineken Star Vision. We were approached by Heineken about like a year and a half ago to work on a club of the future. It's a project where we had to build a club with all sorts of interactive gimmicks in there. We built like an interactive table where you could order your beer, you could play with other people. We built like a whole kind of 3D projected art installation in the background that was synced to the music. One of these things from the project was Star Vision. And the idea for that is that they have, Heineken's obviously involved a lot in music, and they have a lot of they sell the beer in a lot of clubs, so they have partnerships and deals with clubs, and they wanted to have an automated visualizing system. So we came out with this idea to make something that was sound responsive. So it's kind of like a binary that all the different markets all over the world they can download. They can put it on their Mac Mini. They plug it into the sound system of the club, and it will then generate graphics. What can happen with it as well is that people from the audience, they can actually influence the graphics by tweeting a picture to it, or they can email it to it, and then the picture will get taken into the graphics and mixed and made sound responsive. I'll play a little clip from the screen recording. So here you can see how you can where you can get the pictures of, and basically the keyword will set which kind of hashtag you're kind of listening for, and what images you're pulling in. So these are the kind of graphics that are then playing. This is how you see like tweets would be visualized. People could tweet like messages next to their pictures, and that would be visualized on the screen as well. So it's very nice for people to communicate to people they liked or hated, whatever. We didn't have any moderation in that system yet, so people could pretty much say everything. Next to clubs, it was also being used for festivals. I'll play a little clip for that. This was in Balaton. Then I'll hand over the microphone to Maarten, who will show some other things, while I take a look if I can switch that background music off.
All right. So I would like to talk a little bit about another side of what our company is doing, and that is 3D animations. We have a big 3D department where we create 3D animations, and a little bit the ideas are now that we're sort of trying to combine them with our real-time department as well. But I want to show you guys a little bit how that works with one project from us. Here we go. So it's for Warrior. It's a spot for Art Institute. That's an American art school, and they asked us to create 4 TV spots. Basically, the idea behind the spot is that through a former student, they use the work from former students to show that in a commercial, and then to trigger people and explain them what they did and what they learned at that school, and basically to show people off, to show to people what you can basically learn when you follow a certain course. For the media arts department, that's more the game department. We created cinematic style animation. We got only 2 months to do it, and that happens a lot in advertising, which we think it's a little bit similar, like creating demos in a sort of way that it's always you have to move on really, really quick, which is a lot of work compared to a big Pixar film where they plan everything out and they work for it for like months. But here everything has to move really quick, which basically means that within a team you have to split up and divide all the tasks. Everything happens at the same time. You can't really wait until somebody's finished, which basically means that the concept phase is really, really important. These kind of projects for us, they normally always start with a pitch, where we have to explain our ideas and create some artwork to basically get the job from the agency. There are always other people, of course, as well that want to get a project. Then if we've won the pitch, which in this case of course happens, we work on all the concepts and basically storyboard, storyline, and create all the artwork that we want to build in 3D. And obviously when that is all in shape and approved, you move on to production. Like I said, we have a full 3D team in-house, which is basically also a little bit our background. We started as an animation company. And yeah, what we also see as the future is that you're going to move on from creating like offline rendered 3D animations that slowly will merge more and more with the game technology. So the whole idea that it takes like months to render out a film from Pixar, or probably in the near future will be created in real time, or not in real time, but at least of course the rendering will be in real time, which will give much more possibilities to the artist, because now of course it's quite a slow process. But when you can see your results and what you're creating in real time, the creative process is actually much more, well, it becomes a little bit more easy, I guess. So, oh, sorry. Yeah. This is the spot.
This whole world was once a vision in the mind of Jeremy Tabor. Then he studied animation and turned it into a reality. With guidance, he learned skills like 3D lighting and storyboarding. Without that first step, this wouldn't exist, and I would not be the undisputed commander of the Orc Army.
Bring your ideas to life in media arts. With an Art Institute's education, imagine what you could create.
So as you can see, basically what they did is that the idea that the story takes place within a game, in a cinematic, but actually the warrior, the lead game character, starts speaking towards the camera and explains you that if you also want to create games like this, come and join the Art Institute. Very clear message, I think. Oh, fuck, doing it the wrong time. So basically to create something like this within 2 months, it's we work a little bit similar like a game industry. Of course, it's all asset-based, which means that every little element that has to be created is split up and becomes an asset. And all these assets go through a certain process within different steps. So we start with everything very low res, and then in the meantime improve the assets. So like a model was really low and simple, and then slowly the modelers are improving it, but at the same time also our rigging artists can start, animators can start, so everybody is almost starting at the same time, and you don't have to wait until a model is finished. And the nice thing is also what you can reuse all these assets now for real-time purposes, of course, because you can use the high-res versions from it and create maps and apply them on the low-res versions. So that's it's a great workflow. Well, next to that, like I said, we start with concept art and storyboarding. That's where we visualize our project, and that's almost the most important phase, because there you really see it's basically the translation from a script into a visual story, and you can make like a plan of all the assets and elements you have to create. And after that, you can start like modeling and sculpting and also rigging actually, and creating all your assets. And at the same time, we start with the animatic. That's like the rough sort of version from your animation. That helps to sort of visualize how the camera angles are, what's the placement, the layout from your characters, and the timing. When that's approved, you move on to animation, where like all final animation is done. And at the same time, you can actually already start with lighting your shots. And of course, when animation is done, you can do rendering and move on to compositing. I got here some examples from, this was a storyboard. And this is the until the end shot, which is a little bit unusual, actually this frame, because we normally, it's more to explain the whole camera move. This is some of the concept art we did, because we have to, basically we started off with a character from the former student, but we had to improve that quite a bit. So here are some exploring concept sketches from that. Here's some concept art from the X kit, because another thing is that we had to create a gigantic orc army in the end, and because we didn't have time to model and create like every individual object, we sort of came up with the idea to create sort of building kits that we could combine really quickly. So we created all little small elements, but with them you could create really easily a variety of weapons. And we did the same with the orcs. So this is the sort of construction kit for our axes and swords. Well, here this is some concept art from the swords or the axes. I'm sorry. And this one is a turntable from the axes. Well, here this is a sculpted model from the dead orc that you see in the beginning. So here, this is sculpted in ZBrush, and we always start with like a low poly model in Maya, and then go to a higher res version and give it like an extra sculpt pass in ZBrush to give all the detail. Good thing is, well, this one we didn't have to animate it, so we could just render it. So it's really high res. To be honest, I don't have a wireframe from it, but it's actually quite high res. This is our orc army, and again, if you look good, you basically see that they're all different elements, and with them we basically it's all just the same, but we recreated them a lot of variety with them by using different helmets, different textures for the war colors, and of course they had different weapons as well. So this is our main character, the hero actually, our warrior. And this is a turntable from the character. We always make these to basically for ourselves to see, of course, how all the shading and the texture looks, and we also use this to send to our clients for approval. Then. Yeah, and this is basically the last version we created before we went into final rendering. We always do, once all the assets are in place, like you can see here, we create like one gray shaded render, which is of course really quick. And actually this is a playlist. No, it's a gray shaded render. To check if everything is in place, if all the animation is working. Yeah. And before we start rendering, because that still takes, of course, quite a lot of time for a project like this. So yeah, the next project I want to show is another CG project, but it's more of an art project. We also, next to commercial work, we also do some art projects now and then. And with this, we are already basically looking for a combination between CG animation and interactivity. It's called Wax Splatter. The idea is that it's created with a friend of us who's an artist, and he sort of wanted to create it like a digital animated painting. And the story is about sort of 4 hero monster characters that are competing with the natural elements like water, fire, wind, etc. We created the whole CG film for it. And while we were in production, because this took us quite a long time to create, because we did it in our spare time, around that time the possibilities of WebGL came also. WebGL became more sort of technology that we could use in browsers. So at one point we were looked for a possibility to add interactivity to it, but then all in a browser, so that everybody at home could play with it. So yeah, and I think another important thing is what we were looking into at that point, that we want to merge our animation with interactivity, but that wasn't really working out yet. But I think in next future projects that will happen. This is some concept art, and this as well. And then I have one. The whole film takes is about 5 minutes, so I took one scene from it to show here. There's some music. The actual rendering is quite dark, but here it's even darker, I see. So. So, and then I want to show you the website, but I need a second hand for that. Oh, fuck you. Oh. Can you? Ja, die link die doet het niet. Hè? Ja.
Moet je er wel even aan toeschrijven. Maar je moet even wat sneller zijn.
Oké. Oké. So this is the website. Basically, I think it's best if everybody tries it just, themselves. But it's let me see how I can. So it's an 3D world, and we try to integrate the canvas in there. And we basically added a couple of different effects as a demo to give it a bit more the painterly look and feel. I just want to go to the mouse click doesn't work. Huh? Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's better if you experience it yourself because it's obviously interactive. So check it out on scene-music / Splatter. And then Dan, I think it's up to you for. So let me close this. Yeah.
Hi there. So one final project, which was a project we did for CNN. It's a Twitter visualizer. Because everyone's mad about Twitter and everyone wants their Twitters visualized. It's a project that we did last year that was basically related to the UN Climate Change Conference, which happened in Durban in South Africa last November. And CNN basically wanted an installation in Durban during the build-up of the event, which their viewers could basically tweet in with a certain hashtag, and it would build well, what they wanted, they said they wanted a digital organism is the word, the term that they used. And so here's a brief film of
Every year, the world's leaders and thousands of stakeholders, they come together to discuss
of the event itself.
And this year, the conference was held in Durban, in South Africa. For this event, we created a project called the Ecosphere. It's a website and installation, and it's a real-time Twitter.
That's me with longer hair. So you can see here, that's basically what's on that computer screen there is the end result of this project was a WebGL application. And the funny thing is, for us, it didn't start off like that. It started off, in our minds, being a C++ custom application, which is something that which is kind of what we'd been used to building. We'd never done any WebGL before. We didn't really have all that much experience with that kind of website thing. But by the end of the project, it turned out that WebGL was the perfect technology to basically power all the different platforms. This project needed 2 installations, a large video wall, a hologram, plus a website. And instead of writing 3 different code bases, we ended up just writing the website and then skinning it and using it to drive the installation. So you can see here that basically those trees there, those kind of immense, every single point of light is a tweet that somebody's written about climate change, quite often in different languages. And we, the idea was that you start off with this kind of empty world, and then the system tries to categorize the tweets, tries to basically sort them into different topics, such as renewable energy or green futures, that kind of thing. And then the topics, in a way, compete with each other. So they're basically at the end of the cycle, the end of the conference, the topics with the largest number of tweets are the ones with the largest trees. So it's a very kind of visualizer. It's a very obvious thing that it's expressing, which is just basically what people are talking about.
Or people can navigate the Ecosphere and they can like them. So via the microsite, you can add a vote button, and you can.
So I'm just going to briefly sort of go over the kind of how this project started. Like I said, it was a bit of a roundabout route to get to where we got to. Partly because the nature of advertising is like clients quite often change their mind a lot. So basically, they started off at the beginning asking for a tree, which was made out of words, which is basically what we did for the pitch. And so this is we kind of ended up making this for the pitch, which is a tree made out of words. Did that over a few days. They came back to us, they're like, "That's awesome! Yeah, you got the job." And then the next day, they kind of said, "Well, maybe a tree's not what we want. Actually, maybe we want something else, like maybe an eye, because it could be." We were thinking maybe it could be like the eye could be basically the world watching these climate change delegates. They're very sort of conceptual people in advertising. Big ideas and so on. So we'll have a go at an eye then. We'll ditch the tree. So we started taking the tweets and basically think, well, we could kind of lay them out like that in different colours and so on, and then maybe then they could sort of like form like some kind of an iris, and then that could be the basis of the display, and then that could be, well, you got the world watching you, and they said, yeah, that's awesome, like we love it, it's brilliant. Let's go with that. And then they rang up the next day and said, well, actually, maybe an eye is a little bit too confrontational. Maybe we should do something a bit more organic, a bit more fluid. So, well, like what? So, well, maybe like fish. So, okay, fish, great. Something fluid. Collective intelligence. Emphasis on intelligence. So, well, we kind of abstracted fish a bit, and They're weird fish, but I guess if you squint, they're kind of fishy. Well, basically, we wanted to put the tweets on these little discs and then have them swarm about. Nice, you know, like particle systems swarming and so on. Basically, yeah, this kind of thing, you know. That's just, you know, just a rough kind of like guess at it. And then we could have like, you know, the conference name and all flying about and so on. And they said, that's awesome. We love it. Except, we're thinking maybe a garden actually. We love what you've done. You know, you're really rocking it. We love what you brought to the table. But maybe like a garden, like, well, what's in the garden then? What is it? Like plants? Yeah, like plants, like kind of tree-like plants. So a tree that, no, not one tree, like several trees. Right, several trees in a garden, right. Anyway, this is just a taster of advertising. I'm sure you get it in other industries as well. It's that sort of bit where, you know, it's very conceptual people. They've got big, bold, beautiful ideas, broad brushstrokes. And then you got coders who are like, you know, like annoying little details and sort of just headaches that keep recurring and so on. And so when the two worlds meet, it ends up being interesting. Anyway, we ended up doing they called it the Garden of Hope, first of all. We thought that might be a little bit cheesy. Then it became the Garden of Change, and then the garden was dropped, and it was called the CNN Ecosphere. So this was basically what we're going to make, which is a lot of the original trees around the big world. I don't know, how much time is there left? I don't know if I'll go into too much detail about the... That time to... All right. Well, I guess I had some like kind of not very interesting details about... I just wanted to say one thing, that the kind of layout algorithm, when it finally got around to it, which was... there was all this was going back and forth with the advertising agencies, like, no, it's not organic enough, and it needs to look more organic, and no, that's too organic, and it's too linear, and so it ended up being this kind of like weird stuff, which we all agreed was organic, but that was too organic, that one. But the funny thing was, it suddenly, as you got more and more tweets, it ended up just looking like broccoli, and. Then they got to the point and they said, well, you know, it looks too much like broccoli. It was like, look, sorry, that's it. We've had enough changes. Just briefly, this is the thing that was on display at the climate change conference, which is a hologram. It's not really a hologram. It's just a big plate of glass that if you go around the corner, it looks like it's kind of like hanging there, but it's not. It's just an optical illusion. But that was pretty cool. And so this is also running from WebGL. There's just a browser in there. And not in the middle, but like that's just running from a browser, and it's just like, for us it was just this surreal thing of like, how you could have one application that you've done on a browser and have it drive all these different platforms and a website with minimal changes, and so yeah, it was a new thing for us. So that's kind of the end. So like if anyone's not had a look at WebGL and JavaScript and that because they're scared. I mean, you should be a little bit scared, but it is cool. Have a look. There's cool stuff there. That's kind of the end then. Any questions about advertising? Or fish or eyes? Is it organic enough? Turn the mic off.